Welcome to day 5 of the Mirador trek. This is the big day in many ways. It's the longest part of the journey. At around about 34 kilometers, it's a very hard day's work, but it's also one of the most rewarding ones. And I'm going to use the GoPro footage that I shot on the trek for the audio.
Day 5. Setting out. Well, actually, it's been an hour since we set out. We've already walked about 5 kilometers. We've got a really good pace on this morning. And so today is the day when we go from Nakbe to La Florida. We're going to stop at Wakna on the way, which is cool. One of my favorite little sites because we get to see some pre-classic era painting on the walls in Wakna, which is, kind of like, it's just amazing to see, So there's that. So today has been, we've got, well, I hear the quotes between 34 and 38 kilometers to walk is the biggest day. It's kind of like, I always describe it as one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life. And I'm walking with a ex-international rugby player, a skateboarder, a 22-year-old skateboarder, and a 23-year-old marathon runner. So I'm kind of like, let's say that me and the guide, we are the older ones, and we're probably the guide's obviously more accustomed to this. That puts me at the back where I am right now. It gives me a bit of a time to make this video. So yeah, so it's the craziest thing that I've done in my life 6 times now. So far all is well. We got up at 4 to have breakfast at 4:30 and on the trail by 5. So it's now just gone 6. We've done 5k and here we are at the crossing point. This is the difference, kind of like when the difference between the Nakbes that we were walking on, and okay, so this bit's a little clearer, but you might be able to sort of see how much different the trail is now. They say, last time I read the figures, there's like 3,000 people go to El Mirador a year, and of that only 300 people go to Nakbe and La Florida. So, this is something special, which is why I always love doing it. Something not a lot of people do, and of course that means that the trail is a lot more junglish, not always obvious at first sight exactly where the trail is either. I'm walking without the guide right now because he's hanging back for somebody. And it becomes obvious, but it's pretty easy to get a little bit lost in here if you're not careful. But it's a beautiful way to wake up, to spend the morning. You see the sun is just rising through the trees now. It's like getting up to do this is just sunrise in the jungle, the noises, the colours, the shapes, so beautiful. On this day, the mules have to take the same trail that we take, well, pretty much, and it leads to it being very cut up. Now we're here like right at the end of March, which is usually pretty dry, but surprisingly they actually had rain. I think it was last week or something like that, and so it stayed muddy. At 5 kilometers per hour that we managed on the nice flat track before has now slowed down a lot because you're trying not to turn an ankle in this kind of like cut up mule path that we're in right now. These hoof prints are, getting on for, a foot deep in places. So you have to really watch your step and it slows you right down. And of course you then also have to pick the crests and the dry bits, otherwise you'll find your foot a foot down in the mud, as it were. and we are arriving into Wakna. This, as you can see, is a far more rustic trail, let's say, as we're getting close to this rather exciting site. Now, one of the things I'd heard before was that Wakna is the pre-classic city with the largest astronomical complex of all, which is kind of interesting. But let's see what we're going to find. I mean, obviously this is it has a name. I guess it's been mapped in some ways, but there's hardly any work that's been done here. So let's see what we find. Okay, so this is what we came to see at Wakna. Oh, I don't know if you caught that, the bat just flying around out there. And there's bats in here. This is a royal tomb. It was, I guess, registered, if I could put it that way, in 1986, when the chiclero that found it kind of told the archaeologists about it. And this, there is nothing here at Wakna. There's no camp, there's no guards, there's no one here. It's you can see here, this is typical corbelled arch, and this apparently was a royal tomb. So there's very little excavation work that's been done here, and the excavation work that has been done here is actually kind of like illegal looters. So I am hoping that what I'm showing you is kind of coming out. Sorry about the shake. Obviously they kind of tried going that way to see what there is. This is the original stucco on here. This is, a pre-classic chamber from, as far as I remember, about 2,200 years ago. Side of the pyramid, to go and see a secondary kind of chamber, as it were, and see what's in there. And so there's a lot of people that saying this is actually kind of like a very nice energy in this chamber. You can see it's been dug into in several different places. And so here we go into the second chamber. Maybe this is a primary chamber. It's definitely, you're not going to stay clean. Have a look going in there and see what's in the second chamber at Wakna. You see again, there was obviously some rocks around it, but here again you've got some original stucco. You see how smooth this stucco is here, and the stucco on the walls up here. Again, maybe this was kind of like a great, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking that this was the outside of the chamber. Maybe these stones that fell down, I mean, there got a lot of cal on them. Maybe that was, they were put here. Maybe it was kind of like entombed, as it were. Or maybe these are kind of like parts of a roof comb that fell down, or I don't know. I'd love to be able to speak with somebody who knows more about the history of this site. And look, look at that. You see how good this plaster work is, how smooth it is. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, okay, maybe, I don't know whether that's staining or whether that's old paint or what it is. But, you can kind of see, in some of them, you can see these marks that may have been, they kind of look like where it was daubed on. And these, daub marks I don't know, you probably can't see it in the video and that kind of thing, but it's like you can see where the plasterer's board or whatever was passing over this plaster like nearly 2,500 or 2,200 years ago, let's say. You know, it's just quite incredible to see just how special this place is. Possibly after that slightly maybe jumbled video getting in here, I'm going to try and keep the camera straight, or straight-ish, for the exit back into the light. But look, you know, kind of like, here we go, getting a good angle on there to see this kind of tiny little hole. There's goes a bit deeper down there. I don't know what's down there. I've never been that far down. I'm honestly kind of coming in here, it's all this lime dust, which is quite honestly, you know, kind of gets you dirty enough just getting into this bit. And we still got probably 20k to go. We walked 15 kilometers to get to this point here, so yeah, a bit more to go. And we made it to La Florida. Here we are. This is our last night's camp. So yeah, it's another site, kind of interesting. Maybe it's a site where there was a lot of flint. It's kind of a flint mine, I guess. And you know, a flint mine in time when stone weapons were the, you know, kind of like what was used, makes you kind of like, you know, this is a high-tech weapons center in La Florida. And here we are. Well, I don't have the opportunity to check how many kilometers we've done. I think it's somewhere between 34 and 38. I'll find out tomorrow or later on. But here we are. We finally, well, I say we made it. I'm not actually at the tent yet, am I? I think I can see tarps in the distance. But yeah, you know, this is the longest day, and I guess it's been about 32 Celsius, whatever that is, probably about 90 Fahrenheit, I guess, all day. And we've had an awesome day going to Wakna, but I'm about ready for a bit of a sit down and a cup of tea, I have to say.